right. Hello and welcome back to Twin Cities Territory, our Minnesota Twins podcast here on the Foul Territory Network. I am Zack Pierce, editor for The Athletic, along as always with Dan Hayes, the Athletic's Minnesota Twins beat writer, and Tyler Duffey, longtime major leaguer and former Minnesota Twin. Guys, break out the brooms. A Twins sweep of the Tigers. There it is. Well done, Tyler. The Twins go to 7-6, after a 4-game sweep of the division rival Tigers, a team expected to contend for the division title. All in all, a solid start to the season, given the expectations on this team for sure. Dan was there again, along with a few of his closest friends. another sparse crowd in the early April going here. But what'd you see from the getaway game yesterday at Target Field?
I would be lying if I said I was there yesterday. I had to duck out and go back home. But I was watching along.
Breaking news.
Yeah, just know what they were doing. Know the vibe that's been in the clubhouse, and it's been all good feelings. I think the way that it ended yesterday with Brooks Lee getting the hit, that's a guy that those guys all love. He's put in a ton of work in the offseason. I did not, in the story I wrote about him, say best shape of his life, because I don't do that, because I'm a professional, stirs. But he did redistribute his body weight and get a lot leaner. His face, you could just see it. Went into some explosive weight training in the offseason. He put in a ton of work. He was trying to get quicker. And the first week was pretty much the exact opposite of the first 12 games were exactly the opposite of what he wanted to put out there. His defense has been among the bottom in the league, and he was not hitting. And so for him to get that big hit, you could see it. The bench erupted. He erupted. There's a lot of good vibes going around right now with that team, because he needed that, and he gets it, and they win, and they love that. So it was just a continuation of what we've seen so far. Where this team has continued to, put up the fight, and now they've gotten results 4 times in a row. So I imagine they're riding a pretty good high to Toronto.
3-1 was the score yesterday. Tyler, this team has spent all off season hearing about just the fan angst with the ownership, the low expectations for them. Obviously, 7-6 does not necessarily mean it's time to put them in the playoffs just yet, but still has to be a boost in the clubhouse to start off what is at this point above expectations.
Yeah, especially like we led into the other day. Playing the team of that caliber this early in the year, it can go 2 ways pretty quickly. And fortunately for the Twins, in that clubhouse and Lee for that matter, this is as about as big as a momentum shift as you can get. A jolt of energy into that locker room, in that clubhouse. They just fought through their first homestand, 35 to 38 degrees at game time, wind chills all over the place. They get to go to Toronto, play inside, with a full head of steam going. And there's so much value to that, in that locker room. You're getting on the plane, everybody's buzzing, like Dan mentioned. Lee gets a big hit. Everybody's pulling for that guy. That's something that everyone wants, and it's one of those unspoken. Nobody says anything until it happens, and then it's like at that end of the game, you can see just that weight is lifted off of guys. In this moment, it was him. Next week it'll be somebody else, but it's a huge just shot in the butt. Let's go and let's ride this wave, and trying to keep that head of steam going to Toronto and play the Blue Jays.
I did look it up just because I was curious. I didn't expect 7-6 to mean anything in the long run, but just so everyone knows, the range of possible finishes across a 162 game season, a 7-6 start has happened hundreds of times in baseball history. The worst ever record after starting 7-6 is 53-109, and the best is 108-54. So anything.
So those people that said 45-117, see, you were wrong. You were wrong, people.
See your way out.
16 World Series champions in the group as well. Also several hundred teams that didn't sniff the playoffs. So, of course, it was much harder to make the playoffs as well back in the day. But anyway, there also, since our last time with you all, was a win on Wednesday. Bailey Ober, a strong outing there, an 8-6 victory. Twins jumped out to a 6-0 lead and then nearly gave it away, but hung on. But overall, strong performances from the starters across the board. The little bit of the blip from the bullpen in Wednesday's game, but 4 wins is 4 wins. Dan, do we know when the last time is they had a 4-game sweep?
Ooh, no, I don't, honestly. But I know for the division, it's been quite a while. The Twins, this is anecdotal, but it just always feels like they get that series win, they're looking for the sweep, and they don't complete it. That was something that it's felt that way for a while. So this was to close that out, especially with the way it went yesterday, was impressive. But the Fromber game, they got on back-to-back nights, the team that is the worst hitting team or one of the worst hitting teams against left-handed pitching gets Skubal and Fromber, and they got 6 on the first inning in Fromber. And it's funny because they almost blew it, and I could hear in my head Patrick Royce sending out that tweet. This would be a bad loss. Thank you for my. I could see that coming, and like you said, it was a little bit of a blip for the bullpen, but they got that save. And who was it that night? Was that Lawyerson came in at the end? No, Lawyerson got the first one, or Lawyerson.
Funderburg was.
Yeah, that may have been. Yeah, that was Funderburg.
Yeah, he came in and got the last 2 outs, I think.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look, it's gonna be a struggle some nights for the bullpen, but like that was to capitalize on that and to beat Fromber a night after being Skubal, that was a statement too. I mean, this was a really good overall series when you look at it, just because Detroit outspent everybody in the division. Detroit, we didn't see Kenley Jansen in the series. I don't believe. I can't remember.
I forgot he was there.
Yeah, which is not going to happen. He's their closer, and he got a nice big contract, and he was actually the last big good closer off the board. That was particularly notable in Minnesota when the last big closer went off the board in the middle of December, because they didn't have one, and so the Tigers at every turn, and the Twins were in on Framber Valdez. They made a offer somewhere in the $100 million range, but
they're always in.
They're always in. Show me, don't tell me. Tigers outspent, and so for them to beat the team that widely outspent everybody in the division, yeah, it is a good start, and something that they can definitely hang their hats on.
AI tells me that June 2024 against what was then called the Oakland Athletics was the last 4-game sweep. Dan, I'm sure you remember it well. Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober also winning pitchers in that series. But okay, it did happen in June 2024 according to AI. That's the last time, but I'm not sure. We'll take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and we will be right back.
With over 35 million downloads, what is the #1 rated ticketing app, Todd Father?
It's simple, man. SeatGeek, as we know, man, they have a lot of things that helps you out along the way. They have green dots meaning good and red dots meaning bad, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10, showing you, Scott, how good the seats are. And sometimes you want to sit in the nosebleeds, or sometimes you want to sit in really good seats. And Scott, you know the code, right?
Yeah, I do. And also, I know that you always like a good deal.
Always.
So SeatGeek helps you out all the time with that. They also help you out with the exclusive FT code, which is Territory 10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code TERRITORY10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, and you can have that code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. There are regular season MLB games going on right now. There are hot tickets across the country, so make sure you go to SeatGeek. They will take care of you.
All right, welcome back. We lost our background somehow, but what can you do? We are back here. Keep moving on Twin Cities territory. And we mentioned a little bit during the opening segment, but I think we have to go back to the Hope-O-Meter, Dan. The
trending.
the hope-o-meter is trending upward. We are referring to what was originally a poll on The Athletic, asking fans to rank their optimism for the various MLB teams. The Twins by far in last place at 4.3% before the season started. Dan, you posted an update to the hope-o-meter.
Yes.
Let's hear about Dan's poll.
What did you find in your research?
Yes, in my exhaustive research on Wednesday night after they won the series, I posted just a quick poll, and there were about 300 per team for that hope-o-meter at 4.3%. This was only 224, so it's not totally accurate. It's not 100% even, but the hope-o-meter is up to 27.7. So the those original, the OG 4.3ers are probably upset because they have a little more room now. I think another 28% were on the fence, meaning they can still be their love can be bought.
I'm counting that. I'm counting it.
Because I can tell you every single person that has an opinion about the Twins is on Twitter. And no, look, it's a good sign. Their chances of making the playoffs, according to Baseball Reference, are still only 3.6%. We have 149 to go. There's a long way, but just good vibes were needed for this team in the worst way to start. This team needed to show, because fans were so out. We know that, and just to show some fight and show that this can be a fun team. The bullpen is going to be a crapshoot at all times. We don't know. They don't even know who these guys are. Garrett Acton yesterday pitched 2 innings. That was his first game with the Twins. Nobody probably, I bet 95% of Twins fans didn't even know he was on the roster. He's a guy that they added, the 8th man. That's always sort of the case anyways. But to see the team come back, and also there's a very strong dislike of Detroit among Minnesota fans. So I think anytime you can, crush the Tigers' spirits, that was good for Twins in another way. They like we were talking about pre-show, they offer now anybody that came to that opening day game gets a free ticket to the 17th. They're clearly trying to build a vibe in the ballpark and get people to go out there, because this is their proving ground right here for the whole summer. This 17 games at home, they need to get people on board and get them out there. And again, naturally, people are going to come out because there's just fans that show up to go to the ballpark with their kids and enjoy summer, or people who just want to get outdoors and get to the park. The casual fan, those fans will still always be there, but they need to try and capture the core fan base. And I think this has been good for that. Just the way they played, the fact that the offense is second in the runs in the American League and like 7th overall. There's more there than people gave them credit for, and that's just a good place to start the season.
Yeah. We talked about the expectations and sort of how that must weigh on the players. But it's the kind of series that I also am struck by. Players who have had rough starts have then had their moments, like Brooks Lee, probably the most notable one, or at least the freshest one on our mind. Like he had the hit himself in the face on a bunt attempt incident. He airmailed a throw.
Very relatable to the common fan, by the way.
100%. And it made me love him a little more, actually. But then to have those things happen, I think an obvious confidence boost for the player, but also a reminder that in any game, anybody can step up. It seems like Matt Wallner seems like he's either striking out or delivering a huge hit. It's just somehow so far the recipe has yielded 7 wins out of 13 games and a pretty good start overall. Wanted to also touch today on Mick Abel, guys. He was wasn't the winning pitcher yesterday, I don't believe, but the starting pitcher.
No.
And a strong outing, obviously. Tigers only scored 1 run, but most notably, Tyler, looked like his fastball was sharp.
Yeah, he, especially in the first 2, I'll give you the first game, jitters, cold, whatever. But everything just looked a little more crisp. the fastball out of the hand, it was, it was 96. I don't know what his top end velo was yesterday, if he hit a 7 or 8, but pretty consistently it was 95, 96. What I noticed the first couple, everything was just off the plate. Like he was being maybe a little fine or maybe just avoiding some contact. We all do it. It's kind of part of pitching. Sometimes you want to gain your own trust back and like get a guy out without having to flirt with the middle of the zone. But sometimes it works backwards. Like sometimes you just got to shove one in there and remind yourself like, okay, this is an electric fastball. These guys can't hit it even though they know it's coming. Trust it, and I think ironically enough, Joe Ryan has so much of that. And to that point, Ober, even where he's at, he still has that same kind of just effective fastball. And so we have a whole rotation of guys with heaters like that right now, that it's like, hey, it's coming, and guys aren't that good at squaring it up. And so it's just one of those things I think over time they can feed off each other. And for Mick, ultimately it was, settling in, and you could see he was just dotting that. Like I can see one just dotting the corners just at 96. And it's like, guys, you just tip your cap. Josh Donaldson, I remember he's like, if I come up there and a guy throws me 3 fastballs on the outside corner, I'm going to walk back to the dugout because I know I can't hit it. I'm not going to swing at it because all I'm going to do is break my bat. And so, that's such an effective pitch to have in your arsenal. And, if he can lock that up and maintain it for, the next 30 starts or whatever it is, like he's going to end up in a good spot.
So he hit 96.5. That's where he maxed out at. He averaged
TV
95. Yeah. So here's the thing. His first outing was a piggyback. His next one was 24 degrees wind chill. Yesterday was the closest thing to normal conditions. It was like 43 degrees. We asked him after the Saturday game, because he was throwing 92 and 93 and some 94s. Just he admitted, I looked up, I saw it, saw some numbers that it took. He said it took a little confidence away from him. This fastball wasn't where it had been. Right. Like Duff, I'll ask you that in a minute, but I mean, like he knew that it wasn't quite up to his standards, and he didn't attack with the confidence. He was spiking curveballs in those games. He just, the secondary wasn't. He didn't have confidence the secondary would play as well because the fastball wasn't playing to its normal kind of range. We saw it yesterday where he was able to go to the secondary stuff. He really seemed like he turned it up. He had the 2 walks. The first 2 innings started identically, right? He put 2 guys on and they pitched his way out of it. And those were definite confidence building innings. And you can tell that he trusts in himself, believes in himself, the way he was talking all spring when he was just unbelievable in the spring. Like going into his piggyback in his last game, he had 23 strikeouts and 3 walks. I think, of course, he did the piggyback and it screwed him up a little bit, and he had his worst outing in the spring. But they were trying to prepare him. They should not do that anymore. They should just let him go. Like this guy has got the goods. The fastball is not Taj Bradley's 100, but man, Mick Abel has some really good stuff, and this rotation has some really good stuff. He'd said it. He was looking forward to the next one after Saturday. We saw it yesterday. Even when he gave up a couple doubles, he really just didn't panic, and he went straight at them.
Right.
And it was a very good building block performance for a young guy that needed it, because he ended last year on that great outing against Philadelphia. It actually told him, I was like, you're the reason Philly its offense went into a tailspin in the offseason or in the postseason. I was like, Mick Abel, you did it. He had a great outing against his former team at the end of the year. But he hadn't shown that on the big league mound so far this year. This was really good for him.
While we're talking about pitching, there was a notable statistical performance for Twins closers in this series, and let me see if I can try not to further botch up the technology here. But we had in the 4 games, here it is for those of you watching on YouTube. Sarah Lang's great follow on what is now called X. Pointed out that with 4 different Twins closers getting 4 different saves in that series, it was the 3rd time since the saves became an official stat that a team has won 4 straight games with 4 different pitchers getting the save. And I now realize that I cut off her post, but the last 2 times it's happened was in 2018 with the Yankees and 1989 with the Orioles, which coincidentally was also against Detroit. But Cody Larson, Justin Topa, Cody Funderburk, and Eric, is that Orzi, Dan?
Yes, it is.
Or
Getting
there's some mouthfuls on this roster.
getting the 4 saves, so a little bit of history. And hey, I guess if you don't have a closer, maybe you have 7 of them. That works just fine too.
Get 27 outs.
What's so look, I think this is gonna be a team that's gonna there's nobody that blows you away. I think I saw another thing, maybe Codify ran it, just number of 97-mile-per-hour fastballs by the bullpen so far, and the Twins had 3. The Rockies were somewhere around 150 so far. The Rockies have some gas in that bullpen of theirs. When you don't have that guy that everyone funnels to, when you don't have Yohan Duran at the back end, and so there's no set roles. How often have you pitched in a bullpen like that where it's sort of uncertain and they're going to go matchups? Do you want that certainty as a relief pitcher, or is it how this seems like it's going to be a fight for it all season, one for all kind of group?
Any true, closer. I know some teams purposefully don't use the phrase when they talk about guys because they don't want to label them for arbitration purposes or whatever it may be. But teams with a closer tend to settle in accordingly within that bullpen. And it's a tough, the by committee is great. It can work at times, but more often than not, what you end up getting is guys, like myself for a while, you start getting loose. You're like, this might be me. So you're like kind of stretching, and then you get a phone call and it's this guy. And so what happens is you get these, waves of adrenaline throughout a game, where when I was kind of the fireman, I knew about the 4th inning to kind of get going. And as soon as anybody got in trouble, I just kind of got on a mound, and then they'd call down and say, hey, Duff, get going. Well, now it's 4th rolls around and you're going to get all 7 guys or 8 guys moving at the same time. And it just creates you start having a lot of conversations. You start thinking maybe a little too much, things like that, which, it's easy to fix that. You just, wait for your turn, but we're all human. We're all athletes. We all want to compete. So we're all kind of getting ready. And so to that point, I think it is possible that it can work, but having a true closer, or at least someone you're going to name the guy to get the 9th, is huge, because it allows for some levity within the group to everyone just kind of, all right, it's him and everything else is us. And then you see okay, lefties are coming up. This is this guy, righties are coming up. You can kind of start to predict. And that's all. I think we just want a little bit of predictability as relievers. And I think Shelty's already done a really good job of, working the bullpen. It's been a lot of guys, but it seems like it's gone pretty smoothly. Then a couple times where guys were walking guys, which that happens. That anybody's done that before. So, having a job is great, but at the same time, you're pitching the big leagues, you're going to be up for whatever inning you're in, and you're going to be excited to be on the mound.
Watching the broadcast on Wednesday, there was an interview with LaTroy Hawkins, pitching coach, before the game with Audra.
It's not expecting that.
Yeah. He revealed that she asked him if there was anything, non-traditional, I believe is how she phrased it, that he's doing to kind of get the bullpen bonded or whatever. And he said that he's reading poetry to the group. So, Dan, we need to hear a lot more about that on The Athletic and on this podcast someday.
Yeah, we need some notes.
But also, Tyler, what's the oddest thing a coach ever did in your time for Button?
I mean, for the sake of, saving, people's relationships and things, I won't say too much, but it's we had Eddie Guardado out there. He was an absolute riot, which anyone that has been around him knows that. He was one, if he could tell guys were dragging, he'd take a bunch of pre-workout and start yelling at people, just kind of at the end of the day, it's keeping it loose out there because we are, like Trevor May comes to mind when we were talk about it, and he may have done an interview about it, but it's, a starter shows up to the field and it's like, all right, I show up, I'm pitching. Reliever shows up, it's getting ready all day, and you're just on this slow roller coaster of like when, and it can wear on you if you try to lock in for 9 innings, you're going to lose your mind. Like you're going to be just absolutely insane. And so guys have to keep it loose and figure that out. And you got young guys who are scared to death to breathe because they don't want to get in trouble, a veteran or whatever it is. And so it's, to LaTroy's point, he's probably reading something pretty funny or something, maybe a little inspirational here and there, whatever it may be, but it's something to break up the monotony of, white knuckling a baseball game. And, LaTroy's been in plenty of dugouts and locker rooms, seen it, heard it, forgot about it, and more than anybody else can. So I think he's doing something that he thought would be a great fit, and I'm sure the guys love it. Like I said, it breaks up the monotony of 162 games in a steel cage with fans yelling at you.
I like the presence of him in that group. That they have a guy that's been there and done it for 21 seasons, just to go for it and not worry about things. Like if there's a guy that's gonna get his young, inexperienced relievers pumped up, LaTroy is going to be that guy. If he's in your corner, if he's in your camp, man, you got a champion. And, he graduated college last year. I wrote about it last year. He went back in his late 40s, early 50s and graduated. I think he's 52, maybe turning 53 this year. He went back just to show his family, his young nieces and nephews that it could be done. I like to think that LaTroy is reading some Edgar Allan Poe or some Walt Whitman. And there's a nice cup of tea
stuff. Yeah.
Like I look forward to diving into this story. He's a fascinating guy, and that's going to be a group that is going to be. They're going to have their roller coaster moments all season long until they get someone with some pure heat. But I like just the characteristics. I like Eric Orzi's stuff. I think they found something there. They got him the Mets. In November, another low wattage move that nobody paid attention to. There's guys like Cody Funderburk had a great post-trade deadline last year, and we've seen him express a lot of confidence out there, get some big moments. You look across the board, there's guys stepping up, and so look, it will always be a fight. There is going to be probably some Ron Davis moments for Twins fans where they're worried about losing and blowing the save, and that's going to happen a lot, I think. But LaTroy can keep them kind of going in the right direction, I imagine.
Yeah.
The Twins now head out to Toronto for a weekend series before they return back home to Target Field next week. Some decent weather days on the horizon. We'll see how the crowd responds, but
they have a roof, so that helps.
Toronto has a roof as well. That's correct. They're also the defending American League champions, but Tyler, they're also beset by some injuries. But nevertheless, a big test. We're coming off this feel-good 4-game sweep, 7-6, kind of maybe beating expectations, and now comes a good test.
Yeah, and that place, I'm thinking about it now. Their home series in Toronto, those fans show up. It's going to be some guys, first introduction to that. I think most of the guys have been in the big leagues for a little while, but there's probably some guys on that roster that haven't been to Toronto yet. And it's, I debuted there famously, and I watched the day before, that building literally starts shaking when it gets rowdy in there. And so it'll be honestly, we'll probably see some guys get a bump out of it. Some velos will probably go up. Some results may be there that haven't been. It'll be a real change of scenery for a lot of reasons for the Twins, and it's a great place to play. Like you said, they're coming off some high expectations. They're upset they didn't win a World Series. They were a pitch or two away basically. So it'll be good. And I guess we'll try and keep Louis Varland out of the game. That's a good thing for us.
Yeah, they when the Twins went there late last year, they probably outplayed the Jays in that series, and the Jays won the series. the Twins bullpen just couldn't do it. It was the guy that they needed was on the other side in Varland. But they played great for about 6, mid. There was always that rule with the Twins after the deadline, like look at them from innings 1 through 6 and then forget what happens in 7 through 9 because the starters got to go that long. Twins just need to keep that starting pitching train rolling. It's really good. But also the offense, and we haven't mentioned lots of, coming off of 2 straight 1-run games on Saturday and Sunday against Tampa Bay and that disappointing loss in extras on Sunday. Offense broke out. Offense is second in the American League in runs right now. Now they're averaging 4.6 runs a game. Josh Bell, I'm really intrigued. Tyler, you mentioned, I'm really intrigued to see what being in a hitting park is going to do for him. He was good in Arizona 2 years ago when he was in a hitter's park. He's spent a lot of his time the last, it's been Pittsburgh is definitely a pitcher's park. He's played with the Nats. He's played in Kauffman. He played in Miami. Those are not the friendliest pitcher, or not the friendliest hitting parks. He's looked really comfortable, whether it is he's found his long ball a little bit, the home run straight put them ahead. But the thing that really always impresses me is just the hitter, the bat to ball. He's a big dude. He doesn't strike out a ton. He knows his zone, and he dumps. He's not afraid to dump a ball in, and it can be the ugliest hit, but it's an effective 2-run. He's just been big for them. I think that can be really helpful for some of the guys that the Twins want to be run producers to see an example like him in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah, and doing that, like to your point, Josh Bell with a Luis Arraez approach, the ball's going to go a lot further, period. And so him just mishitting balls or doubles versus singles and, continuing on, he gets a hold of one a little bit, it's got a chance to get out, and so that's, like I keep saying, that's all you can ask for in the heart of a lineup is a switch hitter that can put one in the third deck or shoot you the other way for a single. Like that's, you can't ask for much else.
Yeah.
Blue Jays are second worst in the AL in runs scored with 41 and fourth worst in runs against. So
that's going to definitely last. That's certainly gonna.
Get them while they're down, I guess.
Sweep them now.
Yeah. Friday through Sunday in Toronto. Back in Minnesota on Monday. We'll be with you next on Monday. Should we name that twin, Dan, for next week? What should we?
Yeah, let's save it.
We have a new game. It wasn't really, I didn't design it as a 2-player game, which was a mistake on my part. So let me go back to the drawing board and make it a 2-player game for both of you. But we'll have a new game next week called Name That Twin. It's very creatively named. That's a good one. I'll save it for future reference. But Twins 7-6, leading the AL wildcard race with just 149 games to go. And they're in Toronto this weekend. We will see you next week on Twin Cities territory. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, follow, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, what you think of the show. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.